Hey, everybody. Just to do a quick segment, February 20th. I wanted to first start this out with a correction. When I uh, talked about Cheryl Crow selling her Tesla, I said she donated the funds to Associated Press, but it was not. It was NPR. Apologize for that error. Sometimes I have a brain fart. So, anyways, I want to start today out with that correction. Then I wanted to go with meltdowns and the fake outrage today. We have some more coming down the line uh, with the firing of 6,700 IRS agents who were not actually on the job yet. They were in orientation or just starting their probation. So the left is melting down, saying that it's irresponsible doing this just weeks before tax time. But let's be honest, uh, taxes were getting done even before Biden hired all those 87,000 employees, and this 6,700 is part of that 87,000 because they hadn't got all of them on the job yet. And then the ones who are on the job that were hired, and they also were like agents that carried firearms, which President Trump is utilizing on the southern border. It's all good. So, you know, hey Betty, how you doing? Francis, glad you could join me. I'm not gonna be on here long. I've been trying to do these daily segments. It's easier to go live than it is to do a video. So I'm gonna try to do this daily, and I'm not gonna have an actual specific time when I'm gonna do it. It's when I feel like I got enough information that I want to talk about that would cover 15 to 30 minutes of airtime. So you know all this fake outrage with the what's going on. If you remember correctly, nobody cared about spending money to hire 87,000 IRS employees to start investigating people who earned anything over $600, which means that Biden was going after the little guy. What's the question, Penny? So, with Biden going after the little guy, nobody, I mean, we all complained, but of course, we had no power at the time. But the left, our politicians didn't seem to care. It didn't bother them. But now that these IRS agents are going bye-bye, which they were never needed in the first place, uh, all of a sudden we got all this fake outrage going on. What's going on with the Haitians in Ohio? Now that Trump, well, I always try to do an update every time I go and do a segment, Penny. I actually was going to mention this. Um, there's a few of them. Well, I'll say more than a few that did. I don't know if they did like self deportation because a lot of them were flown over here. The last like 100 of them were granted temporary protected status, even if they crossed the southern border illegally. But the original 400,000, 300 some thousand, uh, were flown over here. So saying that, uh, there was a few weeks here where you couldn't get a U-Haul because they were all being used for Haitians moving out of town. So I'm assuming they're going to other parts of the country that deemed more safe for them from ICE or whatever. But I don't know. It's that's speculation. Yeah, Coop Dog. It's been like teens during the day and single digits at night here. Uh, Haven't had no minus that I know of, except for when you go windshield factor, then they put it in the minus. But I'm a car guy. I heat my garage with a salamander heater, and it's just too cold to even my old bones and joints. I can't handle doing it out in it. I can't get my garage warm enough to do anything with it. So I haven't been doing any car content. But this Trump's administration moves so fast with what they're doing. I stay busy with the news. But back to the Haitians real quick, Penny. Uh, people ask how come, when you break the law here, you get subject to deportation. Well, our local politicians and our judges, even when a Haitian goes to court for something, their previous record is wiped clean. And I did a video a while back that proved that. And I'll give you another deal just recently. A Haitian, his name was Jonah Joseph, was involved in a single car to property accident, which means he ran into somebody's house. You don't know how often that happens here. It is so ridiculous uh, how often that happens to where they run into a building or a house because they can't maneuver the corner because they don't slow down. When they go to take a corner, this is why we have so many rollover it is amazing how many rollover accidents we have and how many homes and buildings are damaged by single car accidents. And I've literally watched them do it. They'll come up to a corner, which is 90-degree, at a traffic light to make the turn onto the street, and they don't even put on their brakes. They're doing 35 to 45 miles an hour, and they just try to take the corner, and they usually clip a vehicle or clip the curb and roll their vehicle over. It's ridiculous. But this is what I'm saying about this. This is like the latest of the latest. It proves this is all public record. His citation actually says on there, because he has to appear in court. It says it's mandatory that he is currently under uh, suspension of license. Doesn't say why. Just says his license was suspended. So that's actually on the citation. So he goes to court. The judge dismisses the charges of him being held accountable for running into the personal I don't know if it was a house or a building. I have the address, but I'm not going to list all that stuff. Yeah, no, Penny, you do not want to ride a motorcycle around Clark County. It is. It's not if you get in an accident; it's when you get in an accident here with a motorcycle. So anyway, this just proves how corrupt our judges are, and all these local NGOs, our local government, the mayor, and everybody on the council, and the prosecutors, everybody, they're all in on it. They all, and you got to follow the money. None of these people would fight this hard to protect this group of people if they didn't benefit some way, some form or fashion. And the most common form is in financial uh, compensation. Can't prove it, but it only makes sense. It's common sense. There'd be no other reason. I mean, I guess some of them drank the Kool Aid and think they're doing the right thing. Uh, but so this person went to court, charges dropped, did not get his driver's license unsuspended, as far as I know. But when you pull up you can pull up by name and their address and everything. He shows no violations of any kind, not even for the suspended license. Yeah, Betty. I mean, they have all kinds of ridiculous excuses of why they get in accidents. I even know I mean, I watched this woman hit another vehicle on the ass end, and then told the cops that it was the other person's fault that they put it in reverse. And there's like four witnesses and other vehicles at the time, and every one of them said that person never moved their car. This woman pulled right up behind that and never hit her brakes and slammed right into the ass into this other individual. So these Samoans, these low IQ or Samoans, I'm sorry, Haitians. I was just going by your Somalian deal there in Colorado, but the Haitians in our area are liars. They all have a proclivity to lying. The lie in a heartbeat. When you see all these, when they all the news outlets are here and they were talking to the community leader, the Haitian community leaders, they all lying. They're everyone lying. They 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 they, they can't help but lie. I don't know what it is about them. It's their culture. It's like lying's not wrong. They feel like if they lie for the right reasons, it's okay. We wasn't brought up that way. Church, no. Penny, if we went to court and we ran into somebody's house or whatever, and we would had suspended license at the time, we would probably either end up in jail if we could not afford to pay restitution on the spot and pay whatever ridiculous fine that would be part of that. Uh, but we would not have anything dismissed, and we would have to pay a ton of money to stay free. They don't have to do none of the above, and I've proven that in previous videos about our local judges, to where when you pull up their records, they have zero previous violations. And the one video I did, that person had been in court 3 times for traffic violations and never had a history of one of them being recorded in the record. So they'll never be held accountable to be deported. So that stuff's still going on here. They're the local politicians are basically being like AOC, instructing the local Haitians on how to elude ICE if they were to show up here. And so far, I haven't seen any. I don't know of any. Um, you know, if that was to happen and I know about it, I will definitely let y'all know about that. Yeah, Betty, and I just seen where those gang members in Aurora, Colorado, that were tipped off, and the apartment building was empty when ICE went to go raid it to arrest these people. I just seen in the news and why they were reported if they're supposedly helping them out. But they reported that those gang members are populating the apartment complexes again. So I hope ICE finds the leaks. And they said it was a possible the FBI agent that leaked that last deal. And if so, that FBI agent needs to go to jail. But we'll see what happens. It's all this stuff is happening so fast, and there's so much going on that it's like every 4 hours. I could literally probably do a 15-minute segment every 4 hours with the news the way it's moving. Yeah, KMO. That's a story that's told time and time again all over this country about that very thing. So yeah, I feel exactly what you're saying. Yeah, yeah, Grant. It's exactly we're all saying that they are our government is a weapon against us. They talk about weaponizing the legal lawfare against President Trump and others. Well, they weaponized the immigration system against the whole country. And why is it all these left wing politicians are trying to fight so hard to allow illegal aliens to be counted in the census so that they can be allowed to vote, or just to have the enlargement of that population so that more congressmen and senators can be, or actually congressmen, uh, can be attached to that state, which gives them more voting power in Congress. It's all power play. It is. I mean, it's all power play. But we can talk about that during my live stream on Sundays. Right now, let's just get through the news. So I already talked about the agents being fired and how it's all fake outrage about that. Now, did y'all see the? You may not watch the hockey game, but did you see the highlights about the Canadians booing uh, when the national anthem for our country was being played? That did not go. Uh, what's a good word I'm looking for? Uh, Payback's a bitch. So what happens as soon as the hockey game starts? Uh, Three different occasions, three fights. All three fights, the American hockey player beat the shit out of the Canadian hockey player. And to add injury to insult, we beat their ass in the hockey game. I think it was like 3-1 or 3-0, but it was on their own turf. So that's what you do when you uh, uh, FAFO is since we're on YouTube, and y'all know what that means. So it is what it is. People bang sticks. I'm reading your chat there, Betty. Well, you see the hat I'm wearing today, don't you? I am a pro Second Amendment advocate. I have my share of the bang bangs, but I always tell everybody it's not how many of those you own; it's how much ammo you have for those. You can own 20 or 30 of those bang bangs, and if you don't have the quantity of ammo that you may need in the near future, you never know. It's not about you know thinking that it might happen. You got to be prepared that if it might happen, you're ready. Hopefully, it never will. With that peace through strength. This is what keeps a lot of it at bay, is because we do have the Second Amendment. So we keep the peace. We keep tyranny down as much as possible, uh, because we are a strong nation of Second Amendment individuals. So that's what makes a very polite society. Yeah, Betty. In hockey, you are allowed to fight. I don't know if people who don't watch hockey didn't know that. It's one of the few sports where you're allowed to have a physical conflict with somebody, and they don't break it up. They let you fight for a while. They eventually will break it up. I think they break it up if both parties hit the ice and they're laying on the ice fighting. If you're still on your feet, they allow you to fight. All the prices in my area. Well, for those who know me and follow me, they know like I'm disabled, so I'm on disability. Uh, every I notice every 4 to 6 months, it seems like something else has gone up, and it's made it harder to the grocery store is ridiculous. I mean, I don't get food assistance, so everything's out of uh, my disability pay. I pay so uh, groceries is rent. I'm glad I own my house. We were looking at houses the other day. Uh, we were thinking about selling this one and purchasing another one to live in because this is a two-story house on a hill, and walking is getting harder to do for me, and climbing stairs is even worse. So we were looking for a single-story ranch. So we were thinking about selling the house. We can't afford to purchase a house, even when we if we sell this one, we'd have to sell this one first because at my income level, don't matter how good my credit is, at my income level, they would not let me purchase a house at the cost of what a house sells for right now. That what the house payment would be, my income level could not match it. So it's kind of like catch 22. We're stuck right now, and it's only in this area. That's what's ridiculous. This is one of the poorest areas, literally, other than down around Portsmouth, Ohio, which is a little bit poorer than us, but Clark County is one of the poorest areas in Ohio. But yet we have one of the highest rents and highest resale uh, prices on homes. Tell me how that makes sense. This is what happens when the world, our local business people, politicians, price price gouge. They're all getting rich off this. When you can rent out a house and stick 12 beds in it and rent it out by the bed. Haitians live like this. This is no big deal for a Haitian. We wouldn't do it. Living with a bunch of strangers in a house and just rent out the bunk, but they do. And it's actually better conditions than where they come from. So when you're charging $200 to $300 a bed, and they charge them by the week. I don't know if that dollar amount is by the week, but I know they charge them by the week because they all work for temp services for those that are working, and the temp service usually owns the house that they're living in. And our mayor owns some rental property, and it's amazing how the rental property that he purchased, uh, he closed on those properties 1 month before the uh, temporary protective status Haitians started showing up in our town. Does that mean he's a genius and knew it was coming just by I'm such a great investor? This is what I'm going to do, and all of a sudden this happened. No, he was told this was going to happen. He was given the information to help him financially benefit himself to allow the overrun of this town, to allow 20 plus thousand Haitians into a town of 58,000 people. I don't want to get off on this in this segment. We can talk about this on my Sunday live stream, but let me continue. So Pam Bondi is set to charge AOC officially for making that little webinar she made to allegedly instruct illegal immigrants on how to evade ICE capture. Even if this woman don't see jail time, she should be removed from office because when you're a U.S. congressperson and you're trying to tell people how to circumvent the law, you don't deserve to be in the position that you're in. Our mayor is never going to resign, Scooter. He's going to have to be voted out. You know, I signed the petition. They worked on doing a recall. So far, nothing's happened. I think they got enough uh, signatures, but nothing's happened yet. So, not, I'll keep you guys informed on what happens here locally. Of course, that's how a lot of y'all know me is the Haitian issue here. And, the hell of a way to be known is by having a situation like that to have to live with in where I'm at. But it is what it is. So I always like to do a Doge update because I'm fascinated. I can't say fascinated. Doge is like something that I'm really interested in following right now, as is most people. Yeah, well, Beverly, we'll vote him out right now. Uh, like the mayor, he doesn't come up for reelection until 2027. So if we don't do a recall, he's in there till 2027 at minimum. So, and then a couple of the people on the council claim that they're not going to seek reelection. The one, Crystal Brown, she's claiming that because she's a black woman, and she's claiming that she cannot represent a racist town anymore, and that when she got accused of being racist, she said it's impossible to be racist because she's not white. This is their mindset. They're supposed to be Republicans. They have the same talking points and mindset as an extreme leftist Democrat. So they really need to remove that R from their titles. So, anyways, Doge update. So, Doge stopped millions of dollars of taxpayer money going towards, and this woman literally did a press conference and was upset that she was losing her job over this. So, her job, this is what's funny, is to study how to keep um, cows from farting. That's the study. How to keep cows from farting. Another woman is protesting, and I seen her on X doing a press conference. She is upset she's losing her job because she is researching on how to safely collect sexual orientation and gender identity practices for cancer care practices for these marginalized individuals. So basically, she's studying sexual orientation and gender identity on how cancer care affects them compared to a regular straight person. What the F are they talking about? If you have cancer, you get treated just like everybody else. But she's losing her job. She's upset she's losing her job because she got some dumbass job about studying sexual orientation and gender and the effects on cancer care towards those marginalized individuals. This is what the government has been spending our money on. Anybody who argues that that study needs to continue and we need to keep dropping millions of dollars in on that, especially the one about the study on how to keep cows from farting. When I seen that, I thought it was a joke. I say that all the time. I've been reading these titles on what they've been spending all this money on, and I literally think I'm getting pranked. And then I find out I'm not. Yeah, Betty, the gay frog thing is that's probably that's Rand Paul brought that to everybody's attention at a hearing one day, and when they all their committees where they investigate everything, but don't ever really do nothing about it. So, and I wanted to also talk about, they have all this fake outrage about all these government employees losing their jobs, in which I've said before, I have no sympathy for them. When the left, and this goes all the way back to Hillary Clinton, when they said they got a war on coal and fracking, that they're going to shut these industries down. And when they were asked about what about all the coal miners and these people who their livelihood depends on this, that oh well, yes they need to go back to school and learn computer programming or something like that. They'll figure it out. Well, they claimed all these illegal aliens. I've said this before, have been brought into this country because we have so many open jobs that our youth are either too lazy or too drugged up to fulfill these jobs. But now we got all these hardworking government employees who can fulfill these positions because they're hardworking. So they ought to be perfect to fill these factory jobs through these temp services. I mean, they're not the ones that are on probation. I mean, it sucks that they just were starting on a new job, and during their probationary period, they can get removed from their positions, and they don't get the severance package, and they don't have to have the unions don't come and fight for them because they're still in a probation period, which means they're not paying union dues yet. So if you're not paying the union dues, the union could give a shit about what happens to your job. They're upset that the position is lost, so because they were expecting on that future revenue, so the union negotiators can buy a bigger house because uh, we was just talking about this on Rumble the other day with Killer Carl. The union negotiators and like the president and all that of these unions, that's your modern day uh, organized crime. That's your mob. They literally get rich off the sweat of all these factory workers and truck drivers and nurses and kitchen workers and teachers. All these negotiators and administrators of these unions don't give a shit about these people. They're going to make whatever deal possible they can make to keep you working, which means giving up a lot of concessions that the workers want so that they can keep you working so they can keep collecting your union dues. If anybody don't believe that, you need to look at some recent negotiations with contracts over the last 10 years minimum. You can go back further, but let's go back the last 10 years and look at what their original demands are because they bring them the demands of the employee and then they start chopping away at that to make it to where the company's comfortable and the union bosses get to keep their employees working so they can collect them dues. What's up, America? Take back America from Israel. We need to take back America from all these foreign countries there, bud. All of them. Not just one, but all. That America first is what it has to be going forward. Look at all the money. I said this before. We spend all these millions and billions of dollars buying our friends. And when the money stops, let's see who's our true friends. I bet we won't have, if we have any, it'll be very, very few that will still consider us an ally when the money stops. So we'll see. But like I said, all this fake outrage about all these federal jobs being lost. Where was the outrage when Biden was firing all these federal employees and military personnel for not getting a jab? Where was the outrage for that? All those people lost their jobs. No severance pay, no nothing. They lost their rank in the military. They lost everything. Where was the outrage for that? Do you ever hear any politicians besides just a couple of on the Republican side, and only a few, not even the majority of the Republicans, even brought it up? Well, Francis, that he said that before, and then when they thought that, because him and Nancy Pelosi both were talking about not seeking reelection, and then they changed their minds when they found out that there's a good possibility that Trump was going to win the election. So they felt like they needed to be there to protect the American public from Donald J. Trump. When it was 77 million of us said, we don't need your protection. We want this crazy man in there. We want this bull in a china shop type individual in there. We want this crass speaking, assaulting verbally to anybody who even says something against the United States. We wanted him in there. We needed him in there. And he's doing exactly what we asked him to do. So now that he's in and they realize they ain't got no power anymore, they're going back to not going to seek. He don't need a secret election. This man can't even do a press conference anymore without uh, having some kind of a mini stroke or something, seizing up, can't talk. You see more and more of these politicians doing that, and honestly, some of it might be because of the jab and all the boosters that they got. Because I've seen many videos of people like not just the original jab, but they be like on their third booster, and then they just fall out, pass out. One woman was a comedian, was even talking about it, where she was proud of getting her booster 2 weeks before that, and she passed out on the stage and she hit her head and cracked her skull. So a lot of these people who are freezing at the mic, all these politicians, and they're all up in age too, but we never seen such uh, numbers in politicians freezing or misstepping while they're doing a press conference as we have since COVID. Uh, if I'm wrong, let me know because I'll be more than happy to correct it if I'm wrong. But I believe I've never seen numbers like this before of these politicians doing this, and I think it's all because they got the jab and the boosters. Penny, I'm sad to hear that. That's that's awful. I had a cousin who believed in all that. I've had COVID twice, guys, and the first time I had COVID, it was bad, bad. I mean, and I'm not the best of health. I'm one of those high risk individuals, and it affected me for a very long time. The first time I got COVID, but I never got the jab. I had a cousin who got the jab and a booster, got COVID, ended up in the hospital with respiratory problems, got out of the hospital 10 days later, and 2 days after that, he died, and they said it was complications to COVID. So, all this trying to defend this vaccine, the vaccine doesn't work as well as they said it was going to. and the side effects, the complications from it, uh, I don't know. To me, it may outweigh the good that it may have done. And definitely not everybody needed the vaccine. I mean, I guess if you look back at it, they would have claimed that I was one of those individuals that should have got it, but I refused to because I didn't trust it. But they treated us all like we were second class citizens. And what was so funny is those who got the vaccine still act like you were a horrible person because you were spreading the disease, but yet they had the vaccine, so they should have not. I mean, why were they cared? That's what I'm saying. Why would an individual who gets the jab care if somebody doesn't get the jab? Because supposedly after they get the jab, they're the protected ones. We're the ones that would have been at high risk of dying over it. Yeah, I do remember when Hillary called us deplorable, and I took that with a badge of honor because anytime a Democrat calls a conservative a name, you just have to grin and look at them because they don't believe half the shit they say. Yeah, Penny, I was the same way. I didn't. I that was like a hill I was willing to die on. Not pardon the pun, um, because like I said, if you got the jab, why did you care about somebody else not getting the jab? And why were you claiming that they were making society a more dangerous place to live? When if you believed in the jab so much, you had no fear, supposedly. But the government made us seem like we were causing people to die. Why is that? Because they knew the jab wasn't going to do everything that they claimed it was going to do. I mean, President Trump, I believe, and I could be wrong. His intentions were good. He asked for them the warp speed thing to get it developed, but he always said because he promoted it because he thought it was going to be the 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 thing that cured or helped everybody get over this or through this. But he never said that you would be forced to get the jab. It was still your choice. So whether you an individual promotes it, that they have the right to promote something and they believe in something. But until they tell you you have to get it, that's when things change. And President Trump never said anyone was going to be forced to get it or lose their job if they didn't get it. Yeah, the mask bullshit. That mask thing was. I mean, think about how ridiculous this whole thing was, and people lived with it, and they did it. You go to a restaurant for those few restaurants that were allowed back open. You wore a mask to your table. You could take your mask off at the table. Now you're talking to the waiter and everybody else, and you got a booth behind you. You're less than 6 feet away. But if you got up to go use the bathroom and you didn't put your mask on, they kicked you out of the restaurant. And if you wouldn't wear the mask to the table, you wasn't getting in the restaurant. But sitting at the table, because that means that COVID probably wasn't uh, infectious at 4 feet, 3.5, 4 feet off the ground because you're sitting down. But if you stand up, anything over 4.5 feet, you stand up, all of a sudden you could get COVID again. Seriously. So, anyways, I just wanted to bring all that stuff up. And before I come on, I always do a Doge uh, debt relief clock, is what it's called. And before I come, and it's clicking pretty good. So right now, before I come on, it was at 116 billion 900 million and clicking. And that's what they say that they have already saved the U.S. taxpayer. Now, a lot of those programs and things that they have that they stop payment on, those are not counted in that. I don't know if y'all realize that because those have to go through Congress to be officially removed so they can remove that dollar amount from the budget because that money is still being printed, added into the budget, even though President Trump stopped the payment. The money is in a holding pattern, but the money is still money that the taxpayer has to uh, account for. So once they get all this wrapped up and start going through Congress and removing some of this stuff, then you're going to watch that DOGE debt relief clock go crazy. But it's yet to be determined. Yeah, Scooter, I'm like you, no masks. I mean, there are some dangerous viruses out there, and it's. I mean, Fauci's been pardoned, and there's so much evidence about how much lying he did when he was brought in front of Congress, and all these. Although you don't really get in trouble for lying at a news conference, but you should get in trouble for lying to Congress because you're under oath at that time. But he's pardoned. So, in my opinion, Fauci should go right up there with Hitler and Stalin and all them, who was responsible for millions of deaths because of their actions. That's my opinion. Well, 72, if you're actually sick and you know you're sick, you shouldn't be out and about around people anyway. Because when I had COVID, I did not leave the house. I stayed home. And a lot of people say, and I did not go to the doctor. Well, how do you know you had COVID? I took the COVID test. I took multiple COVID tests until I got to the point to where it went from positive to negative, and then I knew I could leave the house again. So yeah, if anybody is knowingly sick with something that is contagious, you're right. You're just an asshole if you don't take the precautions to keep other people from getting what you got. Saying that, if you have no symptoms of any kind and you go out and if all these people have the jabs, supposedly they had nothing to worry about. And more people got the jab than not. So, yeah, we all have our opinions on that. People don't like my opinion on it. I don't really care. Uh, you know, I live my life as much as I'm allowed to live it in this country without the government uh, intruding on it. I live my life the way I want to live it as best as possible. So saying that, guys, I did not expect to get on here this long, but I always say if chat wants to engage, I'm here to engage, however long it takes. So today is Thursday. Am I right? Yeah. So I'll probably do a segment tomorrow, and then I'll be on Saturday night, 7:30 on Rumble, Killer Carl, free for all Saturdays, and then my live stream Sunday at 7 p.m. The first hour is going to be on YouTube, and then I'm I'm gonna shut it down on YouTube, and people can come over and continue the conversation on Rumble. I have a Rumble station or channel, whatever you want to call it. Over there, they don't call it subscribing to it; they call it following. But I have it's called Empty Pockets Podcast. So we'll be able to get over there and get a little bit deeper into the weeds and a little bit spicier, uh, non-censored conversation on these subjects that you're not allowed to do with YouTube. So the new study shows shedding from people who are jabbed. I knew already because I got symptoms from the jabbed person. Yeah, see, remember that they first said that you were completely safe and everybody around you is safe. Then they said that you could still get it. It's just that you won't die from it, and that you could still give it to somebody else. Sounds to me like, because whether you lived or died with COVID, the first strand was the roll of the dice. Sounds to me like even if you got the jab, it was still a roll of the dice. But if you were so protected and you could still give it to somebody else, that means the people who had the jab uh, put people who didn't have the jab at risk by being around them without a mask. But hey, I didn't care. I it, I did what I did, and I lived the way I wanted to live. And I have to tell you, where I live here in Springfield, Ohio, this was like a bubble. There wasn't a huge population of people that were mask Nazis, and they wasn't. I mean, they didn't like get all scared for the most part about being within 6 feet of each other. It just didn't happen here. Like you see these bigger cities to where they literally protested businesses who wanted to stay open and stuff, or the law come and shut them down and arrested them. You know, that's as close to authoritarianism. I can't even say that right. You know what I mean? I'm an old redneck hillbilly mechanic, so sometimes my vocabulary, it's not that I'm dyslexic too, so guys, so a lot of times I know when I want to say it just doesn't come out right. So saying that, uh, we're past it. American people got more educated over it. I don't see it ever being able to happen again like that without massive protesting. And I mean, I would go to the streets. You're not going to do this to me and my neighbors again. But that wasn't what this segment was supposed to be about today. I was just trying to pass on some news. I'm going to work on that word, Penny, and next time I do a segment, I'm going to say that word properly. Of course, I'll get roasted when people go back. Those, if anybody watches this recording of this, uh, all the people who like to troll, I'll get roasted because I can't say it correctly, which is fine. I expect it. I, I anticipate it. It's not a big deal. I am who I am, and you know, I try to be as honest with the information I give. And sometimes, if I can't speak a word correctly, you get the gist of what I'm saying, so it's fine. Uh, with the cold weather there, uh, Al, they're not out and about. They don't like this cold weather. I don't like this cold weather, but yeah, I mean, right now it's pretty damn quiet because the weather is so frigidly cold here, and we've got a lot of snow in the last week or so. So, yeah, so it's very minimal right now. But our local politicians and our NGOs around here are doing the same thing AOC is doing by instructing the Haitians that are still here how to evade ICE. So hopefully, if Tom Homan and them come here with ICE, they see all the postings, the newsletters, the memos, the social media, and start holding or these local people accountable for doing this. Uh, but anyway, we'll see. That's still yet to be determined. So, anyways, I'm gonna get off here. Appreciate you guys stopping in. My name's James. Empty Pockets Garage. Another YouTube channel, Jimmy Pockets. You can catch me on Rumble, Empty Pockets Podcast. Give me a follow over there. Till next time. Oh, Francis, you know people who still wear a mask in public. I do too. And what's funny is I'll be sitting at a light and my girlfriend will see me chuckling. She's, "What are you chuckling about?" I said, "Look over there. You see a single individual in their car, windows rolled up, and they're wearing a mask. That's a Democrat." I'll leave you with that. This is James. Till next time, I'm out of here.